Whew. Love it. Hey, what's up guys? Ryan Savin from Little King Goods here, and today I'm gonna be talking about the Power Burnisher from Weaver Leather Supply. This tool has been one of the greatest tools that I've been using lately, and it's not really hard to see why. Full disclaimer, Weaver Leather Supply did send me this unit to review, but they have not seen the video before I've published it. I'm gonna be talking about what I love about the machine and maybe some improvements that can be done on the machine, but overall, you're gonna see why this tool can be so helpful in your machine arsenal. Okay guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about the build quality of this machine. First of all, it's built and manufactured in the USA. And that's very important to me because quality control on anything, especially that I put out, I like to be able to see what's being made, get my hands on things, see if there's errors, and it's just quicker to fix and address. So being that it's made in the US, that's definitely a plus. It's made out of solid metal. I believe it's aluminum or steel. I can't really tell. It's pretty heavy, but I'm not sure if that's just from the motor. Solid hardware. Everything is just made simply and just built like a tank. It's definitely capable of holding up for years to come. It's mounted on a chipboard or plywood base. It's easy to mount on your workbench. I've drilled through mine to mount mine to my workbench. It's just a great feature to have a nice big base plate like this. And the edge of this baseboard comes just shy of where these drums or shaft is, so that sanding your project or burnishing your project, you're not right up against your workbench. There's some room to move around your leather project. It's got a 1/4 horsepower motor, which is solid. It just feels and sounds right, like I was showing you before. And it's mounted on rubber bushings so that the vibrations are minimized and it's a lot quieter. It's not gonna be rattling around everything on your workbench. The simple design of this thing just makes it very easy to access. So basically it's just a belt attached to an electric motor, attached to a shaft with bearings in here, obviously, that just turns your shaft and you can burnish or sand. So it's a very simple design so that if something does go wrong, it's very easily fixed. So they've got 2 screws here that you can just take off, another screw back here, this whole thing comes off, and you can change your belt if you have to, which I don't know why you would. It's a very sturdy belt. Maintenance is very low. Accessing everything is very simple. The on-off toggle switch is satisfying. I mean, I've said that a million times already, but it's just on or off. It's really great. Another burnisher and sander combo I had before was a variable speed one, and there was an on-off plus a variable speed, and it was just very annoying. The switches sometimes wouldn't work and you have to turn it on and off a few times. But this, it's just good, it just works, I love it. The overall construction of this machine is just 10 out of 10. Simple, sturdy, and it does the job it's supposed to do. Okay, so let's talk about the sanding part of this machine. This drum here is an 80 grit sandpaper. It's a 4-inch long drum by 2.5 inch wide or thick or deep or whatever you want to call that. The diameter of it is 2.5 inches. Actually, when I first got the machine, I didn't realize just how big it was after I took it out of the box. I'm like, this thing's massive, but it's a good size. You have a lot of room to sand your project. There's a lot of wheel available. So if the leather starts building up on the wheel, you can, shift your project over. And yeah, it's just a really good size wheel. They have an 80 grit drum on here. I would like to see a little bit finer grit. I would like to see 120 or maybe a little bit finer than that. But this grit takes off a lot of material. So I primarily use it after I punch my corners with a corner punch, and I just want to make sure that they're nice and flush and rounded. I'll bring them on this machine. Or if I'm sanding something that I can't necessarily use trim allowance on, I want to flush up those edges, I'll use this. After I use this, I will touch up my leather project edges with a finer grit sandpaper, anywhere from 120, 300, 500, 1500, depending on what I'm doing. If it's something like a wallet edge and I want those edges to shine like glass, I definitely am not gonna just use 80 grit on that. I'm gonna step it up, like I said, from 120 and sand it all the way up to even 1500 sometimes. This is a great initial sanding wheel, but if you do wanna make your edges shine like glass, you're gonna have to step it up by hand. So something to keep in mind. So after using this for a while, leather will tend to bunch up on here. I mean, it's a coarse wheel and leather does get in the crevices and all that stuff from the sandpaper. So all I do is I just use a steel brush, whether it's on or off, You know, you can rotate it and take off those little leather shavings that tend to stick on here, or I'll turn it on and then I'll just run this across there really quickly and it tends to take off those leather shavings. So that's just a little trick that I've been using in the last little while. The RPM of this motor is 1725, so it is at a really sweet spot, I think, for the speed at which you want to sand. So I think that's really good. They did a really good job picking this out, and yeah, it works well. Lastly, the sanding sleeves are replaceable. Right now, at the time of filming this video, they are $13.60 for a replacement drum. Again, there are only 80 grit drums on their website. I would love to see something a little bit higher, maybe 120 or 180, something like that. The Burnisher is made out of a really nice hardwood. It feels like it's already got that worn in feeling. They must have put some sort of an oil on it or some sort of a finish on it to give it that, I won't say it's soft or wet, but it's got that worn in patina feeling already on it, which I think is really cool. Some burnishing wheels come just like this, where there's no finish on there, and that's fine, but I'm just really thankful that Weaver has put this kind of oil or finish on there to jumpstart the process on the patina, which helps a lot. The burnishing drum comes with 8 different slots, ranging from 3/4 of an inch with the biggest slot, all the way down to 1/16 of an inch, which is great for smaller card pockets or whatever you're doing that requires a thinner notch. When you're burnishing the edge of a piece of leather, you're not just gonna stay in one notch. Each notch, depending on which notch you choose, will burnish a different part of that edge. So you can start with a thinner groove, which will touch parts of the leather, so maybe the edge, and then you work your way higher, and then it'll start burnishing the different parts of the leather. So for instance, this is a really thin piece of leather, but the edges of the leather would get burnished by a smaller slot, and then the top part of the leather would get burnished by a larger slot. So you can work your way up or down, depending on what you're doing. I primarily use the burnishing side of this for my first initial burnish. So for a belt or for wallet edges, I will use this for my initial burnish, and it gets a nice slick edge right away. After that, I will sand or add another layer of edge finish and then burnish by hand with a cloth or canvas or wood slicker, something that'll get that hand burnish. I find that a machine does a really good job at the beginning, but to get that nice finished edge, I always find that finishing by hand works the best. Okay, so we've gone through the parts of the machine and the things that I really like about the machines. It's a great overall build, and there's just a few things that, you know, I'm being really nitpicky, but there's a few things that I would like to see maybe improved or changed. So with the sanding drum, it has a nice 4.5 inch area that you can sand on, but I noticed that the sanding drum has a sweet spot, and that's kind of right in the middle. As you go out from the middle, either this way or that way, I noticed that it tends to jump a little bit. So like when I'm sanding, it'll start jumping a little bit, and I think that's because maybe the shaft is not balanced or something within the sanding drum is not properly balanced. Again, that's just nitpicking and just a small thing, but that's one thing I did notice. So one other thing, about 2 or 3 days after using the machine, I started hearing a weird noise coming from it, like a brrr, like something was wobbling or not right. And then suddenly the machine just stopped spinning, but it was still humming. So it wasn't the motor that was acting up, and it wasn't this that was acting up. What had happened is that the belt fell off the main shaft, so back here. What I did notice is that the motor was a little bit loose and like cockeyed, it wasn't straight. So all I did, it was super simple. I was able to remove the cover really easily, fix the motor, make it straight, put the belt back on, tighten everything up, put the cover back on, and away we went. And those things happen. For whatever reason, you know, during transport, like I said, or something got loose, it's just very, very easy to fix. And so that problem was fixed within a couple of minutes. So yeah, so this machine as it is just comes like this. I've rigged up a small dust collection system with a shop vac so that when I'm sanding, all the dust particles from the leather aren't being, you know, thrown all over the place. And it works really well. It's just a small shop vac with a wide nozzle that I have a push button at waist height to turn it on and off, and it works very well. So overall, I think this machine is great. It works well, it does what it's supposed to do, it's built like a tank, and it definitely speeds up my workflow. And we all know that time is money. Currently, this is selling for $965 on their website. You can buy additional sleeves or burnishing wheels if you have to, but this is gonna last you for a very long time. The only thing I can foresee you changing is the sanding sleeve, and that's about it. The burnishing wheel is gonna last you a very long time. The more you use it, the better it gets. It's a patina on there. just like wallets. $965 sounds like a lot of money, but once you consider the type of machine and the quality of machine that this is, it's really not at the end of the day. Investing in high quality tools that are low maintenance will save you money down the road for sure. There's a link of where you can pick up this power burnisher in the description, and I wanted to thank Weaver Tools for sending this machine over for me to review. Go check out their stuff and let me know what you think. So if you've got any questions or comments about the machine, please leave them below, or if you want to reach out to Weaver directly, go to their website or follow them on Instagram. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this kind of a video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already, do so if you want. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I wish you all the best. Keep doing what you're doing. All right guys, we'll see you later. God bless. Bye.